from employee to owning the company and then 30xing its size over the next 15 years. Today on Stories Behind the Door podcast, we have the CEO of Storage Asset Management, Alyssa Quill. So excited to dive in with today's guest. She is so highly regarded in the self-storage industry. Before I jump into that, I'm going to give a shout out to the good folks at Kiwi2 Construction, Wayne Woolsey and his team, 30 plus years in the steel building, providing in self-storage. Really can't do this podcast without them, and thank them for their support. She is Alyssa Quill of Storage Asset Management. I was grateful that you agreed to come on. I met you up in Westchester in October and you said you would come on the show. So first of all, thank you for coming. Second, I realized you took a plane flight this morning to get on the show, really going above and beyond. So grateful. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I've been able to watch many of your podcasts in the past and excited to talk to you.
Well, really excited for your journey. As I always start the podcast out, I love this industry. I've been so fortunate to get involved in it. Only been a little over 4 years for me, so I still kind of consider myself a newcomer in this industry, but it's such a niche thing. It's not something I'd ever even really heard of before I got invited to come into it. So I'm always interested to ask people how it is they got involved and how they ended up in self-storage.
Are we lucky that we found it? Even if it was later, it's such a, whenever I meet someone new to storage, I say, welcome, just so you know, you'll be in this industry for the rest of your life. Nobody wants to leave this industry once we get in it. I've been in the industry for 21 years. In 2001, I was working in Hartford, Connecticut as an actuary in the insurance industry. And my husband was transferred with his job to Memphis, Tennessee. And there were no jobs for actuaries or really no insurance companies in Memphis. So I got a job as a financial analyst for StorageUSA, which was a publicly traded storage company. Then, and then like everybody else in the industry, all of a sudden I started seeing all the storage facilities, everywhere that I never noticed before. And so that's how I ended up in storage. I wasn't sure at the time that it was a career move for me. I thought maybe I'd get back into actuarial work, and but ended up loving the company, loving the industry, and here I am 21 years later.
So you go to work for StorageUSA. How does the transition happen to starting Storage Asset Management and building this widely respected and really the largest third-party management company that doesn't own stores themselves? Where did that transition take place?
So I was at StorageUSA. A year later, GE Capital bought StorageUSA. I stayed, and that was really interesting, learning GE's perspective on an industry that was much smaller organizations, leading it up to that. Then so they owned us for 2 years, and then they sold StorageUSA to Extra Space. And so then I stayed on with Extra Space for another 4 or 5 years after that. The first 8 years of my career were with kind of the same company. It changed 3 times, but I stayed there. And then at Extra Space, at the end of that, I had roles in the finance team and revenue management. And then I was a regional VP of ops for Extra Space. And at the end of it, I was a regional VP of ops, and I had 2 babies and lived in Pennsylvania at the time. We had moved back to Pennsylvania when we wanted to have kids to be closer to family. And my region, though, was the Southeast. So it was Florida, the Carolinas, Louisiana, and I was flying every week. And it just got too hard for my family, for us as a family, to travel that much. And then there was a guy named John Gilliland, who owns investment real estate, and he was looking for someone to run his management company. And his office happened to be a mile from my house. So he, for like a year, was trying to convince me to leave Extra Space and go there. And I loved Extra Space. I loved my job. I was happy. But then when the travel got too hard, so maybe this was meant to be. And so left Extra Space in October of 2008, joined John in investment real estate, and we were running and started running his management company. The person who ran his management company before me was a guy named Jay Hoke. And so Jay and I got to work together at investment real estate. A year and a half later, John decided to sell the management contracts that he had. We had about 22 properties under management that John didn't own. And to be honest with you, I just thought, okay, I need to brush up my resume. Maybe CubeSmart will hire me. Maybe, like I was hoping, because that was at that point in time, a whole bunch of StorageUSA people that I knew. And then Jay Hoke called me and he said, what if you and I buy these contracts from John? And I'm so thankful for that phone call that day and that he thought of me, because at that point in my life, I didn't even, like, that was more than I thought I could personally do. But he saw it in me and wanted to do it, and so that's what happened. So Jay and I bought those contracts. We started Storage Asset Management in 2010 with those 21 management contracts we bought from John, and now 15 years later, Jay retired 5 years ago, so bought his shares out then, and 15 years later, we're managing almost 600 properties. So it's been
Small growth, just a little bit.
a lot of
Nothing
growth.
serious. 20 to
Over 15 years,
598.
so it's not like it happened, suddenly. But we've definitely changed in some ways over the years.
So many questions I want to ask you. I'm going to go back. I'm going to ask you about the process of going from 20 to almost 600, because I think that's fascinating to me. You kind of, I think for me, underplay how challenging that type of growth is over a period of time. And I want to dig into that with you. But I want to go back to Extra Space and to John Gilliland. Those two, they've come up. I had Noah Springer on the show a while ago, of course, is at Extra Space when you were.
Yeah.
John Gilliland. I just talked to Kevin Bledsoe a few weeks ago, and Kevin obviously worked for you and worked for John Gilliland, so his name's come up. I want to talk to you about the people in this industry, right? You obviously come out of Extra Space, and everyone I've taught, obviously Extra Space's name is kind of, maybe over the last year or so, not been talked about the most graciously with ECRIs, but everyone I know who's dealt with Extra Space or worked for Extra Space at any point in time have glowing things to say about them. So I'm interested to get Alyssa Quill's take about when you got absorbed into Extra Space and what that was like for you, that experience working.
Even at StorageUSA had an incredible culture. Before that, it felt like family. Like everybody just enjoyed working together and spending time together. And then Extra Space, I would say the culture at Extra Space is very, believe it or not, if you're only reading headlines and looking at pricing, but the culture working there is very caring, or at least it was when I was there. And from what I understand from friends who are still there, it still is. And Ken Woolley was the founder, and he's just the most genuine, kind person out there. And when you have that leadership, founding a company and caring about it, the people, being good people that work there, it makes a huge difference. And it's hard as you grow, taking that, and that's the kind of company I want to work for. I want to work with people who are caring and kind and genuine. And so that's certainly been the culture that we've had at SAM and try to develop and work hard to keep as you get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not, the larger you get, the harder that is, because not everybody acts that way. And so but I would say when you get people who don't really fit in a culture that's like that, that's caring and kind, they don't usually love it. They don't last. They don't, it usually works itself out pretty quickly.
You transitioned so beautifully into where I wanted to go next, which is about building this company from 20 to 600, but keeping that culture. So how do you make sure that caring and taking care of your people stays a part of the daily fabric as you grow so exponentially?
I'll tell one more story about Extra Space, and it's just a good example. And then how, so you had Noah on. Noah is a friend of mine still. 2 years ago, my daughter was in her freshman year of college and having a hard time, had medical things going on and just was having a hard time. Noah doesn't know my daughter. But I was on a call with him and I mentioned like what she was going through. And a week later, she calls me and she's like, Mom, I got a package with this really soft, warm Extra Space blanket and a note from a guy named Noah just telling me that there are people in the world thinking about me and praying for me. And that all started to tear up But that's the culture. Like that's what this industry has so many people that are kind, and we're so blessed to work in it. So that's the type of thing, how do we as a company remember that when somebody's going through a hard time? Okay, let's just pause and say, how can we help you? Are you okay? What's going on? When yeah, it's remember
I'm
that.
fascinated by this, right? Because that's just Barry Sherman, who's now my boss, I'll never forget this. I finished 75 hard, which is this, challenge that you do with nutrition and working out and not drinking alcohol and doing a diet for
It's
75 days.
intense.
And I finished and I got a watch in the mail from Barry Sherman. At the time I wasn't working for him. I was working for another company that he was project managing for. And he sent me a Garmin watch in the mail out of nowhere. And I'm like, and I'm 49 years old at the time, right? I've been working as an adult for 25 plus years and never had any experience like in this in my life. Now, I'm saying a long-winded story with a question at the end of it, which is you've been in this industry for a while. Where do you think this is attributed to? Because this is not just an Extra Space thing. It's not just a Barry Sher. I've had the guys from Storage Mart treat me this way. Guy Middlebrooks at CubeSmart is like, I mean,
Exactly.
Dan
It's
Bonilla.
filled with people like that.
It's unbelievable how many people are just willing to go above and beyond for you. What do you think that happens from?
I think our industry and the founders, the original people who built it, and people who are working in self-storage, um, I don't think it's an industry that historically has attracted greedy people. I think this is going to be, I don't want to get negative about anything, but there are people who care only about making money. There are certain
Mhm.
industries they're maybe more attracted to. And I don't, yeah, storage wasn't always that historically. So it was people who are salt of the earth, willing to work hard, and we're blessed to get into an industry that is actually pretty profitable. That's changed over the years. There are, it's more obvious to the world that there's money to make in this industry, and we're growing and attracting a lot of attention from different types, which is what's leading to all this development. Um, but I think we're so heavily weighted in kind, genuine people that I don't think that's going to change dramatically. I don't think people can make a dent in it.
From your lips to God's ears, it's one thing I think about a lot is we've seen this I mean, I got in the industry in 2021, and I can remember people saying there's less than 20% of the facilities are owned by big REITs, and how quickly kind of that paradigm has shifted to where now it's REITs or big private equity own so much more of the facilities in a very quick time frame. Are we going to be able to save that? Because honestly, my favorite thing about the industry is the people. Do you see that staying even as maybe the groups that own shift a little bit more towards private equity type?
Yeah, I think that stays because look, to work in this industry, you're still either, you're on the construction side, you're on a site, installing doors, installing lights, you're working on it, or you're running operations and dealing with people of all different levels and, working hard and dealing with you're supporting people in a tough time. It's not like we're throwing parties all the time. It's everybody's going through something stressful when they're coming and using us. So you have to have people that are willing to roll up their sleeves, that are willing to talk to people, that aren't just sitting behind a desk constantly and driving like, how can we make more money, how can we make more money? That's happens and that's part of it, but it's in a way that you're still working. You're not wearing the stiletto heels every day. And I think that's not going to change. And so I'm not worried about that. This industry, the people are so strong that if the private equity investing in it, I mean, hopefully they're great people too, but they're not running the day to day. They're just investing. The company, the third party management companies, the people actually boots on the ground that are running the business they're still storage people.
I'm heartened by that because this has been my favorite part of the industry. Obviously, it's why I do this podcast is just like nonstop, week after week after week, getting to meet new people that treat people so well. I want to dig into you to a little bit with you about how you've managed to surround yourself. Now, I don't know a whole lot of people from storage asset management. Obviously, know Kevin Bledsoe pretty well. No longer with you, but worked with you for a while. Dave Deems, who I consider a dear friend. How do you find these people who are just hardworking, super intelligent, really good human beings, and make sure that they're motivated and want to help build storage asset management? What's the secret to finding people like that to build your company?
I don't know the secret. It's not easy. Sometimes it takes a while to fill a role with the right person. I think it's in that search and interview process, understanding the most important things first. Like, we want someone who, no matter what the role is, you're really looking for somebody who likes to work on a team and respects the team around them, and who, wants to be, who is self-motivated by making an impact. And if they care about, like, hey, what I care about the most is doing a really good job, and like my reputation, our reputation, and earning it. And that's more important than growth or the bottom line or anything. It's going to sleep proud of what we've done or tried to do. And I think we've tried to hire people who kind of think that way as well. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. And the challenge is, when you don't get it right, figuring that out quickly.
Yeah.
And we've made plenty of mistakes along the way, but I think.
Well, you seem to be doing a pretty good job. Your batting average is better than the norm, I'm going to say. This fascinates me that you say that, because one of the first things, Dave Deems and I had dinner out in Vegas at SSA shows, which, by the way, the only trade show events I've ever been to in my entire life that I actually look forward to going to, because just the quality of the people. And we went out to dinner with our friend. I'm going to give a shout out to Martin Bloom, who introduced me to Dave Deems from EDC. And the first thing Dave said about working for you was, what I love about storage asset management is they don't put pressure on me to fill a quota of clients that I get. And so it fascinated me when you said the first thing we talk about is the service that we provide, right? Not like go get a ton of new clients, but when we get a client, make sure that we fulfill what it is we say we're going to fulfill. That's an easy thing to talk about. It's not an easy thing to do when you're running a business. How do you make sure you keep your eye on that level of quality and not get sidetracked by that constant chase of trying to make more money?
I mean, the constant chase of trying to make more money is just not in me. I don't think so. Like, I'm just wired that way. But the staying focused and figuring out, like, how do you keep up the quality, I would say the last couple years has been even more important and harder, right? When the industry is doing well, it's hard to mess up. The properties in 2021, you couldn't do anything wrong, right? They were all full and they were great starts, and everything felt great. It was fun. You woke up super motivated and excited, all of us, to come to work every day. And then the last couple of years have been a lot harder. So it gets more challenging. Oh, we thought we were doing well here, but that's not as good as it could be. And how did we miss it? How did we not catch that 6 months ago? So what do we have to change in our reporting or in our exception flags or in our KPIs to catch that quicker, or in our technology stack to catch that quicker? And okay, now let's figure out, how do we identified the root cause, how do we fix it and turn things around? And takes a little longer. You've got to really think through it long term and manage a project when it's 600 properties and you're turning something around. You got to manage it better. So I think we have to be the last few years have taught us we need to be very forward thinking in terms of technology, be very forward thinking in terms of how do we identify something before it's an issue. And then how do we know which lever to pull to prevent it from ever getting to be an issue? So thankfully, we've got these brilliant analysts and data scientists and leaders that kind of help us. And the thing at SAM too is, I will say, in my career, I have never come up with a good idea on my own, ever. But I'm really good at listening to other people's ideas and borrowing them, changing them a little bit, implementing them. And so I think, having your ears open and really being aware of what's happening is important too.
There's two questions from that I want to ask. One is balancing listen, you're managing 598 stores in today's day and age. Having that amount of data is a necessity, right? If you're going to compete with Extra Space and Public Storage and CubeSmart to a lesser extent, the Storage Marts of the world, these other groups that have hundreds of stores that they can pull data from. You need that. On the flip side of it, I know for you folks, your concentration is really on each individual store performing. So in today's day and age, how do you sort of balance that? Like, hey, we need to have the data that we can have to compete at a high level with these other large groups, but at the same time, each individual store has its own needs. So how do you balance that out in 2025?
So we have all the data and do a lot of testing. So A/B testing in this scenario, how does this work? And then, okay, well, what if the scenario changes a little bit? Then does it work better? Does it not work? And we've had to build our own systems to be a little more flexible than we would have to if we owned all the stores ourselves, I think. So, for instance, we have our own revenue management system. And in we have 8 different ECRI models that we're running. So most of our properties are on one. And that might tweak as data comes in and something changes, or we're pushing something, we'll test something and change it. But there are some owners that have a different priority or a different need. There are properties that have different challenges than others at the moment, and so then using the data that's coming in to say, okay, this one's been on our normal model, but it's time to change it to Model C. Because for these reasons. So it's a mix of using the data and automation, but then having the human influence with the boots on the ground, the store managers, the district managers, the regionals, and then we have regional pods, like a revenue manager dedicated to one area who knows that area, knows it, and you still have that human touch. And then we learn a lot from sometimes the owners of our properties who might live in the market that their store is, and really understand what's happening behind the scenes even a little more than we do, and we get that feedback from them too. But we're lucky, I'm lucky, because it's private. We're a private company. I don't have to run lean. So if we need to invest a little more in developing some technology, or our average district size is only 11 stores versus, I don't have pressure from Wall Street to say, hey, you've got to have better margins, and so we're fortunate on that end.
I'm interested to pick your brain a little bit. It feels like, and I may be completely wrong, but from what I'm hearing in the industry, that people are starting to shift a little bit more, and they're looking for third party management for their stores to folks like yourself that aren't as guided by maybe an outcome for a Wall Street or a private equity firm. Are you guys feeling that? Are you seeing, especially as we've had a couple of tough years, that you're getting more leads coming in, more people looking for you guys to manage for them?
We're still getting a lot of leads. Yeah. And there are definitely some people who want to be able to be in touch and have some influence on what's happening at their properties, and know that we can pivot if something isn't quite working well. But we're not the best fit for everybody either, right? So there are some who don't want to do that, and who are very driven by one thing, whether it's occupancy or something else. And so you were talking about Dave Deems, and he's not he's measured by bringing he's in our sales team, and he's measured by bringing leads in and getting them closed. But it's really important that we're a good fit for them. So even more important than just closing them is, let's bring partners to work with that we're going to be successful, and it's going to be a really good relationship for a really long time. And so part of the process is really just making sure, are we the best fit for them? Do we have other stores in the area? Can we handle it well? Things like that.
Is so interesting. I want to come back to technology a little bit and talk a little bit. Obviously, you guys have your own revenue management software. AI has become all the rage. And how important is it going to be as we move into 2026 and beyond, that as a third party operator, you're able to be at the forefront of those things? I know storage has kind of been slow to adopt technology in some senses, but it seems like the pace of it is moving fast. I'm interested from your perspective, is that something that you really need to be heavily invested in at this point if you want to make headway going forward?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's changing rapidly and quickly now, but it's not really new. Like, our marketing team has been using AI to generate content we manage about 90 brands. So 90 different websites that need a lot of content. And now that we have ChatGPT and Gemini and AI overviews, you need even more content that's relative on the web or relevant on the website. So we've been using AI, in some ways like that for many, like 10 years, I would say. But now it's much easier to use AI to improve processes and double checks and verify things and identify some of those red flags before they're actually red flags. So what we've been busy with at SAM is really, we could do 200 projects today with AI. But we can't do 200 projects today. We still have to run storage facilities and still have to be focused on the main business. So we're really kind of we've been generating all of these ideas and then consistently prioritizing which ones make sense to implement now. And, what's the cost to implement it? What's the ROI going to be? How much effort is there going to be? What's the training required for the field? Like, how much does this change our process? What's the customer experience going to be? Is it going to be better customer experience? If so, that's higher on the priority list. If it's going to reduce the customer experience, let's push that back a little until we can get through that. So for us, it's more about prioritizing the implementations and making sure we're doing that in a smart way.
So much more I'd like to talk to you about, but we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. I like to honor that. And I have something I want to talk to you about. And obviously I've done my research on you guys, and you talked about creating this culture of caring and how important that is. And you kind of put your money where your mouth is as a company. I know that charitable contributions have been really important to you. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that's become kind of a part of the fabric of your company.
I mean, we've been since day one trying to partner with, I would say, mostly local charities or charities that are important to people on our team. And as we've gotten bigger, we've had to do more. Once or twice a year, we'll do a big national charity drive and fundraiser. And I think it just, again, it feels good. We really want to be, our mission is to improve the lives of people around us in the communities we're in through self-storage. So if we can do that for people using self-storage, but then if we can also do it for people not using self-storage, but through self-storage, through our company and what we're able to do, that's huge. Like one of the charities this year that we focused on raising some money for is called Decker's Blueprint. And it is a client of ours, a partner we work with who owns some self-storage facilities in our industry. Just amazing family, and their son has a rare form of muscular dystrophy that there's no cure for right now. And so he's working his butt off with doctors and scientists to find a cure, and we can help him because we can manage the storage. So we can help his income stay the same while he spends all his time working on finding a solution to save his son's life. And if we can help him raise some money to fund that through Decker's Blueprint, it means a lot. And our team, it's also really important to keep people motivated and happy working on the team. And when they get to, help people in their communities, that makes them feel good about coming to work every day too. So lots of benefits.
Alyssa Quill, man, I was so looking forward to having this half hour with you and not disappointed in any way. The story is incredible. You built such an amazing team there. Can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing the story with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thanks to Kiwi for sponsoring it. And thanks to S3.
Appreciate you so much. I want to throw up the little Kiwi flag here at the end. We give Wayne and his team one more shout out before we sign off. Everyone, appreciate you watching. If you got something of value out of this, if you love Alyssa's story, you can reach out to her. If you're looking for third-party management, reach out to her and the team at Storage Asset Management. Certainly can reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the people you need to know. That is it for this week's episode of the Stories Behind the Door podcast. We'll be back with another episode next week. And by the way, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.